eventually the problem for Keir Starmer is that his MO now is that he kind of sets out his stall. He decides, right, I'm going to go out there and make a statement. And instead of sort of calming the waters, and instead of sorting out the system and making sure that everybody now understands we're on this page, he sort of makes it worse.
Yes.
He doesn't seem to have the capability of calming a situation down. Like, remember when he came out with the far-right thugs and in the midst of all the riot stuff and started saying we were going to, we're going to prosecute people to the fullest extent of the law. That wasn't what people needed to hear at that point.
No.
They needed to hear, look, I understand why people are angry, but you can't be doing this.
Yes.
That's what he should have said.
Yes, so he goes into sort of straight-laced.
Trump is taking a hard line, and this time his target is Starmer. He not only rejected the ambassador's candidacy proposed by Starmer, but also called on world leaders to turn their backs on the British Prime Minister. Even Britain's closest allies, such as Canada, Australia, and even tiny New Zealand, are starting to show coldness towards Starmer. The fact that Trump rejected Starmer's candidacy for the post of ambassador causes great resonance. Usually the appointment of an ambassador is a simple procedure, but in the case of Starmer, everything turns out to be much more complicated. He chose Peter Mandelson, and the Trump team clearly did not like this choice. It's not just about political preferences. Trump's associates are particularly unhappy with Mandelson's ties to China. He has collaborated with Chinese companies and openly praised their economic policies, in stark contrast to Trump's criticism of China's unfair trade practices and intellectual property theft. But that's not all. Do you remember Starmer's meeting with Kamala Harris? Trump, of course, has not forgotten about this and is not too pleased. Starmer's praise of Harris and emphasis on cooperation were perceived by Trump's entourage as a betrayal.
Lord Mandelson heads to Washington in January. Is that a good call by the Prime Minister?
I think it is. I think of the candidates whose names were out there, and I don't know if they were all actually candidates or not, then he was the best choice. And he clearly wanted the job. He was out there in public saying what he would do were he to get it. And he has a background as a trade expert. He was Trade Minister in the UK. He was EU Commissioner for Trade. So he has a lot of expertise to bring to bear on the argument of whether we can persuade the Trump administration not to impose these 20% tariffs on all imports into America.
The situation in relations between the United Kingdom and the United States has reached an unprecedented level of tension. Usually, the appointment of an ambassador is a relatively simple process based on mutual respect. But this time, the Trump team is seriously considering the possibility of completely rejecting Mandelson. Think about it. When was the last time you heard of a country rejecting another country's ambassador? This happens extremely rarely. This is not just a minor diplomatic issue, but a serious crisis for Starmer. If Trump rejects Mandelson, it will undermine Starmer's international image and cast doubt on his leadership qualities. It seems that Starmer is playing checkers, while everyone else is playing chess. Such a refusal can lead to many serious consequences. Ambassadors play a key role in establishing and strengthening relations between countries, concluding trade deals and protecting national interests. Without the British ambassador in Washington, crucial negotiations on trade, security, and global issues could stall. This diplomatic instability highlights the fragility of international relations and the importance of wise decisions in foreign policy.
I wouldn't take all of this stuff too seriously, Trevor. First of all, the man who was out tweeting about Lord Mandelson yesterday was one of the two lead campaign advisors for Trump during the election campaign. He is an election strategist. That's what he does. I don't think he's in the Trump White House team. I think his job is finished. And I don't think, I doubt that he's actually, he cleared his lines with the president-elect before he tweeted what he did. Second, this is what life is going to be like under Trump 2.0.
Starmer's choice has put him in an extremely dangerous position, which could significantly damage Britain's relations with its closest ally. And what is the most disturbing thing? This is just the beginning of Starmer's diplomatic problems. Yes, you heard right. Then everything will only get more complicated. Trump's rejection of Mandelson is just the first domino in a series of potential diplomatic blunders. Starmer should brace himself as he embarks on a difficult path in international politics. But do you remember the days when Great Britain was considered a world leader? Starmer seems to be following a very different course. In just 5 months, he spent almost a month traveling abroad, mostly visiting Brussels and Beijing. But why is he neglecting our closest ally on the other side of the Atlantic? The answer may surprise you and undoubtedly cause confusion among world leaders. Let's go deeper. In 5 months, our esteemed Prime Minister has spent 26 days abroad, that is, almost a whole month. And where was he?
Have Labour MPs ruined our special relationship with America? Well, Donald Trump is back and unlikely to have forgotten all the things said about him by Labour figures who are now senior government ministers. They were lining up to criticise him last time he was president, when they were in opposition. But Labour is in government now and Trump is returning to the White House, creating a potentially awkward situation. David Lammy, now the Foreign Secretary, said this about Trump in 2018.
A president who would line up with neo-Nazis.
In 2017, Wes Streeton, now the Health Secretary, said Trump is an odious, sad little man.
Strengthening ties with the EU and China. He seems to have forgotten that the UK is no longer a member of the EU. Of course, I fully support the expansion of diplomacy. But, to be honest, the world does not revolve around Brussels and Beijing. What about our North American allies and the Commonwealth countries? They seem to be on the periphery of his grandiose plan. Meanwhile, we are missing out on valuable opportunities right before our eyes. Imagine that this is a game of diplomatic games on musical chairs. While we are busy surrounding familiar partners, other countries are quickly taking positions that should be ours. Take Canada and Mexico, for example. They are deepening their ties with the United States and strengthening economic cooperation, while we remain on the sidelines. What about the Commonwealth countries? They are looking for trade and security agreements elsewhere, because Starmer refuses to look beyond the English Channel. Let's not forget about the Chagos Islands.
The British are coming. That's what the Trump campaign said, as they accused the UK Labour Party of blatant foreign interference in the American election. The whole thing seems to have started over this post on LinkedIn. The Labour Party's head of operation asked for people to go to America to campaign for Kamala Harris in the battleground states. It says nearly 100 people are signed up already and that they'll sort housing. The LinkedIn post was mentioned in a filing the Trump campaign sent to the Federal Election Commission. That's the independent body that oversees American elections and enforces the rules around campaign finance. The Trump campaign are arguing that this amounts to illegal foreign national contributions. So what are the rules? Foreign nationals can be campaign volunteers as long as they are not paid for it. Labour say that they haven't arranged or organised any of these trips and that accommodation is being provided by Democrat campaign volunteers. So Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister and leader of the Labour Party, says people have gone over for pretty much every election. The activists are doing it on their spare time.
In an effort to please everyone, Starmer neglects his duty to protect British sovereignty. It seems that he cares more about impressing Brussels than about protecting our own interests. This is a serious problem. While Starmer is working tirelessly to maintain good relations with the EU, he is effectively isolating the UK from other global partners. Every time he visits Brussels, it feels like they're gaining the upper hand. And do you know who is happy about this? All countries except Great Britain. They watch as we get entangled in trying to please everyone, while they continue to defend their interests. We need more than just a compromise. We need to strengthen our positions on the world stage. We are missing opportunities in areas such as trade agreements, security cooperation, and cultural exchanges. And for what? Just to make Starmer feel respected in Brussels. It's time for him to remember that his duty is to serve the British people, not to please others. Meanwhile, the situation inside the country is not looking good. A stagnating economy, rising taxes, and an escalating immigration crisis.
I was in government when Trump came in, and this is a foreshadowing for the Prime Minister of what is going to come under a Trump administration. They will be derailed almost every day by something that the President says or what the White House releases or a decision that they make that is going to distract from what it is the government wants to talk about. I mean, we had situations in Downing Street where Trump would wander out onto the White House lawn in front of the cameras and say, oh, something's happened in the UK, I'm going to go and call Theresa, and suddenly the phone would ring in the Prime Minister's office. Oh God, the President's on the phone. And this is a foreshadowing for it.
Where's Starmer? He's probably enjoying champagne in a luxurious conference room in Brussels, oblivious to the real concerns of the British people. The irony is that his relations with even our closest allies are deteriorating. Canada and Mexico don't seem to be too supportive of the UK anymore. And this is due to our Prime Minister's obsession with the EU and China. Do you remember the times when Great Britain maintained strong ties with North American countries? These times are quickly becoming a thing of the past. Trump's proposed 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico are causing a real outcry. What do you think Starmer will notice this and take action? A good leader would have found a way to ease the tension and assume the role of a diplomat. But no, our Prime Minister is too focused on Brussels and Beijing to realize the importance of relations with North America. We have been building stable trade relations and cooperation with Canada and Mexico for centuries. These are not random or unfamiliar countries, but strategic partners in everything from agriculture to manufacturing. Share your thoughts in the comments. See you.